You got it.
I don't even have my agenda in front of me. Chart long in the tooth here. Good morning, or good evening. The Chariton Township of Harrison Zoning Board of Appeals meeting will come to order for Tuesday, August 9th, 2016. Mr. Servil, will you do the roll call, please?
Member Smith?
Here.
Member Patante? Member Servil here. Member Matcha is excused. And Chairman Lytle.
Here. Thank you, Mr. Servil. The first item on the agenda, or the next item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. Is there approval of the agenda this evening?
So moved.
Support for the motion.
Support.
Motion by Mr. Servil, supported by Ms.
Member Smith.
Smith. It's gonna be a long night, guys. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting agenda is approved. Next item on the agenda is approval of meeting minutes. Board members, you have in your packet the July 12th, 2012 meeting minutes. Any changes to page 1? Page 2. Is there a motion to approve the meeting minutes?
Approve the meeting minutes of July 12th, 2016.
Yes, sir.
July 12th, 2016, as written?
Yes.
Support.
That was a motion?
Yes.
Motion by Mr. Smith, support by Mr. Servil. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting minutes are approved. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is hearings and reviews. Mr. Servil, will you read the first case this evening?
Case number 10-16-ZBA, Kurt Hopner, 24905 Tromley, Harrison Township, Michigan. Oh, we got a new zip code, 48047. 45, I assume, right, Sabrina? That can't be 47.
Yes, I apologize, I didn't catch that.
Zoned R1D. The purpose of the request is requesting a 3-foot 4-inch front yard variance for an addition to be built even with the front of the non-conforming home, as per Article 14, Section 14.10, R1D, single-family residential.
Okay, is the representative of the Hoffners here this evening, Mr. Hoffner?
Yep.
Sir, you want to give us your name and address and the nature of the request?
Kurt Hoffner, 24277 Roxana, East Point, Michigan.
Okay, and you've requested to add an additional 3-foot, you require an additional 3-foot 4-inch front yard setback?
Yes, sir.
Okay, could you explain the nature of your request?
Well, I want to build an addition flush with the front of the house, and I can't set it back any farther because of the side door. That's as far as I can go and still get that 20 feet. So I want the 3.4 to come flush with the front of the house. The house was built well, whatever, but the house was built out farther than it should have been in the first place, I guess, and that's the reason we're here. So I'm just trying to, I want to build something flush, I don't want to set it back.
Okay, so what you're telling us is you're not extending the front yard setback, you're just acknowledging that it exists and that the addition you're gonna put is gonna be flush with it.
Correct.
Okay.
And just a question, you had mentioned a side door, so this addition, if it were to go back further, it would cover or would have to go over this current side door
Right, yeah.
entrance? Okay.
Or you'd have to make it smaller.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
Right.
I got it.
Now, if I could, why do you have a shed and a garage?
Pardon me?
You have a shed and a garage?
Well, it's Dave.
I could probably answer that question.
Your name, sir?
David Radcliffe, homeowner of the 24905 Trombley.
Okay, and your comment?
The comment is I had a status change a year and a half ago, and it's existing shed that was there, my father had. It was rotted, we tore it down. That's a shed that I brought over when I moved in before I acquired the home from him, and the pad was already there, so I just took the shed, we already had tore down, and placed it there on the existing pad. And it's basically just for storage there with the garage.
Okay.
And the shed is how large?
It's 10 by 12. The pad, I think, is 12 by 15. It was an older
So
shed.
10 by 12, it's 120 square feet then? And the garage is 20 by 24, 480 square feet?
Yes.
So you got 600 square feet altogether. And your house, according to the worksheet, is approximately 1,000 square feet.
1,008, yeah.
So you're allowed to have 2/3 of that 1,000, so you're within the parameters of that.
Right, 66%
And
of,
plus, if this is approved, you're gonna be bigger.
correct.
Okay. Other questions for the applicant?
Yeah, how did you determine what you needed for setback? Mortgage survey or something?
What we, yeah, when, upon Kurt coming into the building department to try to, when he submitted the prints based on the measurements from the sidewalk, the existing sidewalk that was poured when we built the house, excuse me, the lady had mentioned that it was supposed to be 30 feet from the survey line, and we're at 28.5 or 25 feet to the inside of the sidewalk, which triggered the flag for us to get the survey. So then we had the gentleman come out from the survey company, which you should have a copy of, which provided us this. And this is why we're here now, because we found out that the house at the time was built, or they changed the rule between 72 and now, or whenever that survey line was made to the sidewalk to the house after ours was built versus the two ranches, and that's why we're here. It was an unknown issue to us, because we figured, the house was built in 72.
Just to clarify, you're going by a measurement from the sidewalk? The reason I'm asking this is if we grant this and then you find that you need more, you're gonna have a little bit of a problem. You'd have to come back here. Do you have a survey, did you say?
Yeah, the survey here is what you should have a copy of.
Okay. Well, but these dimensions here may have been put on by the petitioner.
Well,
No, I would give
20
preference.
26.8 feet is what your surveyor says the house is from the front lot line?
correct.
Okay,
And we have no plans to, we're not, our plan is just to go parallel with the front, not to encroach out. If you look at 24805 Trombley down the street, about 5 houses down, they actually came out about 4 feet. We don't want to do that. We want a flush look going across to expand the kitchen and give us a little bit more, additional living space for the additional family that we have within the house.
Very good. Other questions for the applicants? Hearing none, and there's nobody out in the audience to speak, so unless there's objection, board members, we can close the public comment portion of the meeting. Hearing no objection, thank you, gentlemen. We're gonna go into board discussion.
Thank you.
Board members, your thoughts on this?
well, I went on Google Earth, and I noticed that the house next door appears to be in line. The house to the west appears to be in line with this house. And I went on Google Earth, and it seems as though the houses on that street are all over the board. They're not necessarily 30 feet. Without taking measurements, I couldn't tell exactly. But at least the house to the west and the house to the east looks like it's close to the same setback.
Okay,
So,
so actually what the applicant's asking for is to be similarly treated to other
yeah, it
houses. in the
seems to be a reasonable request to me.
Okay, unless there's further discussion, is there a motion this evening?
You wanna do it, Bill?
I'll make a motion on case number 10-16 ZBA 24905 Trombley to grant a 3-foot 4-inch front yard variance for the addition to be built with the existing frontage of this non-conforming home, with the same setback as the original house that sits on the property, so the addition will be no closer than the existing home.
Hardship or practical difficulty?
I said it's non-conforming lot structure.
Very good. Is there support for the motion?
Support.
Motion by Mr. Smith, supported by Mr. Batanti. Any discussion on the motion?
Just something that I probably should have questioned. I'm looking at, from Google Earth, the location of the garage, and it appears to be close to the lot line. Would we need to grant a variance to allow that as existing structure?
The applicant hasn't requested it, and we don't know.
Pardon?
The applicant hasn't requested it, and we don't know. There's a motion on the floor. Any further
Okay.
discussion on the motion? Hearing none, Mr. Servil, will you do the roll call, please?
Member Smith?
Yes.
Member
Yes.
Vitante? Member Servil, yes. Chairman Lyman?
Yes, good luck with your project, gentlemen.
Appreciate you, gentlemen.
Thanks for following all the steps, we appreciate it.
Not a problem. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Next item on the agenda is old business. Is there any old business this evening?
We have a letter here that Sabrina included in our packet. And it's concerning this property that I asked to have tabled and get a report in writing from the planner. I guess this is what this is supposed to be, but he's not showing where there's anything that's non-conforming other than this property that was just granted a permit to build that garage. In addition, he mentions that he checked with Mr. Maples. Mr. Maples was here a year and a half, and I'm quite familiar with what was built on the beach highway, and nothing was built during that year and a half, so I don't know how Mr. Maples would be involved in that one way or the other. I guess it is what it is. They've issued the permit. Not much I can do about it, but I'm not happy with this. I think this is another issue that we were talking about these perfecting amendments, where they're giving more latitude to the building official. If in fact this wants to stand, then they should amend the ordinance that was referred to say except for Metropolitan Parkway and the freeway. Because I noticed the freeway, I-94, there are 2 subdivisions that do have side yards that are pretty close to the easement for the freeway, but easement for the freeway is like 400 feet too. You know, the pavement is a long ways away from these. Unlike the beach highway, it wanders around and the actual pavement isn't that far from the lot lines in some cases. So I'm not really happy with this, but it is, like I said, it is what it is. So I guess we could receive and file this, huh? So or is that even necessary?
If you make a motion to that effect, I'm sure the board would be happy to go along with it.
I'll make a motion to receive and file this letter from
So support for
our
motion.
planner.
Support.
Motion by Mr. Servil, support by Mr. Smith. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, let's file it. Any other old business this evening?
I have a comment, I don't know if that's appropriate now.
Sure.
So at our last meeting, there was concern over the fact that these perfecting amendments had been discussed, and as I had mentioned at that meeting, they had not been approved. They were posted.
Correct.
And because there were concerns by members of this board, and out of respect for that, I did 2 things. I made sure that the board had, through Sabrina's help, had a copy of those amendments, and I brought it up at the regular board meeting, and I made a motion to table that. And I did that, and as I said multiple times, not because I necessarily agree, but I felt that that you have opinions that you wanted to state, and I wanted to help you do that. Now, there's a plan, I think, for a workshop, but I don't think it's 100% that workshop's gonna occur, because there must be no business per se for the planning commission. So, I can't attend that workshop, I'm out of town, otherwise I would, if for no other reason than I made a motion to table that, right? I don't think it's right for me to make that motion and not show up at the meeting, but I'm letting you know that I won't be here, and I'm going to write an email to the planning commission and let them know the same. I don't want them to think that I brought it up and then just didn't attend.
Right.
So, I'm going to do that, and I'm gonna I'll make a couple comments, I'll copy you guys on it, but I don't wanna lead you to believe that I'm gonna be commenting specifically, on the subject matter as much as I'm saying I support the notion that it should be discussed further.
Okay.
The other thing I would ask Sabrina, one of the things that came up was awareness, and it's not, and I went back and tried to look, it seems, I guess I'll just ask, can we add the zoning board to the copy line for the planning commission meetings and for the workshops, just as an awareness? So whatever we put out, because I thought maybe we were on it, but I guess I'm on it because I'm on the board. So if you could just add, wouldn't be a problem as a copy, so that this board's aware of all the meetings and all the workshops, and you can take it upon yourself to ensure that if something comes up that's of interest, you'll be aware of it. So that's all I would ask.
Okay. And with that, maybe one of the things we could, I would suggest is, one, we announce any meetings coming up for both the planning and the zoning board. Each agenda has the other's meeting whenever it is. And the second thing is, if there are changes to the ordinance, ordinances being proposed by the planning commission, that every single zoning board member, gets notified, just like a planning commission member would. Just so we don't run into this again. We actually in the past have had a much closer relationship with the planning commission, and at least once a year, if recollection serves me, we'd get together and meet as a group. And, I think it's good, the two groups meet, on occasion. Likewise, I have no objection to the changing the ordinance, the modification that's been done by the planners and the planning commission over the last couple of years. But these perfecting amendments seem very knee-jerk, and that was really why I had a problem with them.
I think that as long as there's an awareness, I think to some extent, I think that if there's an awareness, is if we're notified, right, we're on the mailing, we're
Yeah.
copied on the list, we should be aware of the agenda. As a result of that, aware of the agenda and the minutes, or how, right, I mean, what?
If you like, I mean, I can certainly,
Yes, would like, could we copy on the minutes as well? And then I think it's an incumbent upon the members of this board to pay attention to that.
Yeah.
Just all above board. I think the notion of meeting once a year is a great idea. Maybe you as a chairman have to facilitate that, but it's a good idea.
Yeah, no, I think, yeah, and I think, we're both equal committees. I think both chairpersons could, work out something. I mean, I wouldn't object to the other chairman having a lead
Great.
on it.
Well, my input on this would be this. Workshops are the purview of the planning commission. If they're gonna change on working to change an ordinance, that's what their job is. That's one of their jobs. It's not our job. But I think that what they could do, what would be helpful to us, is if they said, we're about to change 14.10, we think that it needs some tweaking. Do you have any input?
Well, I think that by the nature of them, if you're copied on the notice that it's going to happen,
But you understand, Bill, they don't always know they're gonna work on it. If, like tonight, if we were planning commission, we've got an hour that we could kill. We took
I see-
15 minutes for this
I
case.
see what you're saying.
So many times they'll decide
see
to
what you're
work
saying.
on stuff, it's basically tabled till they have time. So, unless you wanna attend every single
No,
planning commission
I get
meeting.
your point, I get your point, I get your point.
I'd just throw a couple comments, and I wanna thank you for your effort to table it. I
Appreciate
really
that.
appreciate that, cause I think there is, in my opinion, concerns about, just the latitude or the ease of the building official to kinda sign off on some side yard issues that, I would think, that needs to be addressed, cause I remember most of the time, the side yard is sacred for, the police and fire to get in there to do their things and try to keep it clean and, so good access, right? And, so I kinda really appreciate your effort to table it. I don't know if anything's gonna happen, this way my way to try to, keep these air conditionings, out of the side yards unless, there's, the neighbors sign off on them, they too agree to where they placement might work out for somebody, but just to have a one-person rubber stamp of ban without really consulting or throwing it off the wall of a couple of ideas of people, that I think is, I think critically, because no one has all the best ideas.
Well, I think
don't.
that's, and again, I'm not necessarily
Right.
saying I even agree, but I think that you guys have had a lot of
Right.
experience at this, so I think it's good to get up and be able to say that, so that's my point.
So I just wanna thank you
Thank
for your effort.
I didn't finish my statements.
Sorry, excuse me.
No, I mean, when
I
Dean
apologize.
spoke up,
No,
I took a breath and he jumped in. I was gonna thank you also. I appreciate the fact that you did that. But I furthermore would say, I was at the meeting, and Larry Tominello, who's the liaison to the planning commission and also a board member, stated that these perfecting amendments were asked, they were requested by the building official, that they wanted these changed. That's the reason that they looked at them to start with. And I have a concern with that. You know, first off, these things were less than a year old, and they couldn't have had that many issues with it. And if a contractor is coming and asking, well, why can't we put air conditioners in the side? I've expounded on that in the past, I'm not gonna elaborate too much now, but it's all about the money. It's nothing more. And if a homeowner doesn't wanna put it in the backyard because it's gonna bother them, well, shame on them. That's where it belongs, in my opinion. It doesn't belong in the side yard, unless you can't put it in the side yard. You know, when we got waterfront, that's a different issue.
Well, right, in waterfront, we should just maybe, instead of having it on the waterfront, or the side yards, is make an exception to put it on the street side. I mean, I would hate that, but again, where do you draw the line of maybe it's the, you know, lesser two evil of asking your neighbor, of putting it in the side yard instead of on the lake side or the, you know, the bay side or the canal side, you know, I
Well,
mean.
Dean, it's really no different, waterfront or inland. The backyard is their private area, and on the water, that's their private area too, as much as it can be private.
Right.
If they got a house that's 70 foot wide and they don't wanna put a 4 foot air conditioner back there, shame on them.
I agree.
You know, we've run into that. We had a gentleman here that we gave a big time, variance for a generator because he said he didn't wanna rip up his backyard. Well, you know, too bad, I guess, is what I'm saying. The generators are only run once every 2 weeks for 5 minutes or when there's a power failure. And as it's been said, when there's a power failure, there's gonna be a lot of portable generators that are really noisy. So I think that generators, if one or the other is gonna be in the side yard, generators should be allowed and not AC units. I haven't shut my air conditioner off in 3 weeks. Such as it is. I don't know how noisy it is for my neighbor, but my neighbor in my case is probably 30 feet away from my air conditioner. So, that said, I think we need to give some type of an accommodation from the planning commission. I didn't even know they were working on it. As I stated, Sabrina, it fell through the cracks. Sabrina hadn't given me a new ordinance book. I didn't even know that we had changed the ordinance, that it was actually adopted back in October. Unless you attend every meeting or read every set of minutes, you wouldn't know that. Oh,
One other thing, well, actually, you know, I think there really is a workaround with this, the heat, or the air conditioner in the side yard. And it's a technical solution, but from an energy standpoint, it'd be a lot more energy efficient, a lot less noise, and, because you got a high water table here, take advantage of it. I think there should be groundwater, sourced heat pumps. You drill basically a little well, and you stick a looped tube in your little well, and you run water through it, and basically you can use that as your offload of your heat. And, it's perfect for the type of situation that we're in Harrison Township. Another option is to consider putting these below grade and, grading them or doing something so that these things are in an enclosure, whether it's a compressor or a generator. I mean, they could all be below grade, and it just eliminates the problem of the eyesore, right out of the gate. It's not the cheapest way to do it, but you pay a couple $1,000s for a pit, problem's going away for all the neighbors.
or, as Dean's brought up one thing about a safety issue with having a clear path for emergency services. But even if you have the clear path, the best way to handle this would be with decibels.
Yeah, well, it has to be. It has to be.
Some air conditioners, if you wanna spend enough money, they're pretty quiet. Some of them are really clunky. And if you just have a dimension without any regard to how noisy they are, you might have to put the noisy one 3 times as far away in order to not bother the neighbor. So that's gonna be my suggestion to the
Well,
planning commission.
the decibel, would be great And I think if the neighbor agreed to sign off on placement, for the side yard, I mean, I think that's, you know, he has two shots at it, right?
And the problem with that, Dean, is that that guy can sell the house and then the next person's got a noisy air conditioner next to them.
But it's agreeable on a placement, right? If I'm gonna agree on a placement, I'll make sure that it doesn't affect my life, and I'm not saying it's not gonna affect the new owner, but at least it's, away from my, 10 feet from my, porch, patio, it could be, 30 feet down towards the, front of the house, instead of right next to my patio in the backyard.
The thing is, owners change, like
Yeah.
equipment changes, equipment fails over time, become noisier over time. I would say you don't let the neighbors work it out, because one neighbor's gonna get taken advantage of one way or the other.
Well, at least you signed off on it.
Yeah, but the next owner gets stuck with whatever problems they get fixed. And here's our decibel meter, so we can watch how noisy we are, and unfortunately,
I think I have that on my new phone too, but I haven't tried it yet.
yeah, I'm speaking at about 70, 80 decibels right now, according to this, into the microphone. Any other new business discussion? Or is that old business, new business? Announcements. Any announcements this evening? I do have one this evening. One of the things that we don't have anymore is we don't have a second alternate for the zoning board. And we recognize that today. I called our second alternate, and she hasn't lived in the township for a couple of years now. So I think the Board of Trustees may want to look for a replacement for that second alternate. And actually, our first alternate, he's being involved in a lot of things that he is right now. It might not be fair to have him, I think it'd be worth a discussion, make sure he still wants to continue with that.
All right. I mean, is that something I can certainly look into that, is that, okay?
I think it'd be worthwhile, just, because he's got election season and everything else coming up.
Well, that's Andrew's purview, I believe. But we need to put something on the bulletin board on the cable system, or somehow announce at a meeting that if someone's interested, we're looking for alternates. It's something that you wouldn't probably have to do too often, but
I'll take care of it.
Any other announcements this evening? Public comment? Next meeting is September 13th, 2016 at 7 p.m. Is there a motion to adjourn this evening?
so moved.
So moved.
Motion by
Or
Mr.
support,
Serbrook, support by
sorry.
Mr. Smith. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Mr. Potenti, I did send an email to, Ken telling him we needed a